Hello everyone, welcome to today's video. On this video, I am going to be talking about the English alphabets. No, I'm not kidding. I'm actually going to discuss different English alphabets only from an economic lens. I'm going to be talking about the different recoveries that different economies face after going through a period of recession or depression. I have already talked about economic cycles, how different economies go through these cycles, how there is a period of GDP growth and then fall and then increase again. In my previous video, I have linked it on the top. Do go and watch the video. It will give you a better understanding of how economies function in a free market state and how they go through these cycles. On this video, I'm going to talk about the different shapes these recoveries can take and also the implications for us and how it affects our daily lives. Just a quick introduction about myself. I'm Ayushi. I'm an Indian Economic Service Officer currently working with the Government of India. I have done my BA Honours Economics from Shriram College of Commerce and then my Masters in Economics. I have worked at the intersection of economics, finance and public policy for the last 7 years. So let's talk about recession. What is recession? Technically, recession is defined as a period where the GDP of the country falls for 2 consecutive quarters. So, if the GDP is falling for 2 consecutive quarters or more, it is defined as recession. If the GDP fall continues over a prolonged period, over years, say, then this will be termed as a depression. However, after a recession, the GDP starts rising again. The GDP increases because of a number of factors. It could be because of a positive, favorable political climate, or it could be because of government spending or the stimulus that the government provides to the economy. It could also be because of the stimulus that the central bank of that particular country provides. And hence, because of a number of factors, the GDP starts rising again. I have discussed all these terms about the central bank interest rate, the repo rate in India, for example, and how government increases its GDP. In my previous videos, I have linked it on the top. These economic concepts will give you a better understanding about how economies function. Do go and watch those videos after you've completed this video. So once the economy starts recovering from the recessionary period, it usually takes a particular shaped recovery. Now these are usually in the form of the English alphabet. It could be a U-shaped recovery, a V-shaped recovery, W, L, K. So different economists have given different alphabets to these different shaped recoveries. And hence, these are how they have come to be defined. These are not a standardized definition. It is only based on the graph that the economists have observed historically. For example, recently, former RBI governor and former CA of India, Shri Raghuram Rajan, he talked about India going through a K-shaped recovery. Now, K-shaped recovery could be a dire state for India, and he warned Indian government to be cautious about it. I'll be discussing the K-shaped recovery in this video. Please stay tuned till the very end because these things will become clear once you have seen the entire video. So let us first talk about the first recovery shape, which is the V-shaped recovery. This is how it looks like. In a V-shaped recovery, the economy falls suddenly, and when I'm saying the economy, I mean the GDP of that country falls suddenly, and it also bounces back quickly to its pre-recession level. It is usually the quickest form of recovery that can be seen, and it is considered by the economists to be the most favorable form of recovery because the economy doesn't go through a major setback period and bounces back to its original level at a very, very rapid rate. Now, this kind of recovery can happen due to a number of reasons. For example, it could be that the government stimulus came into effect and it prevented a further downfall of the economy, or it could be because the central bank took some preventive steps in order to prevent the falling of the GDP further or to prevent inflation, and hence the recovery bounced back quickly. For instance, the US saw such a V-shaped recovery in 1953 when it saw a recessionary period. However, it bounced back to its pre-recession level within the first few months of 1954, that is within 1 year of the recession. And this could happen because the central bank of USA, that is the Federal Reserve, could take preventive measures in order to keep the GDP from falling further. As I mentioned, this is the most favorable form of recovery as it prevents loss in employment, loss in GDP, and even prevents inflation from happening over a long period and affecting the people over a long term. The second shaped recovery is called the U-shaped recovery. Now, this, as you can imagine, is a sudden fall in GDP. However, it takes certain time. It takes a few years to come back to its pre-recession level. Hence, it forms a U. And this is called a U-shaped recovery. Now, it may not mean that the GDP has fallen drastically and then the economy is not able to recover. It may only mean that the GDP has fallen. However, it is taking a lot more time than a V shaped recovery to recover to its pre recession level. Hence, it is not about the depth of the U, it is about how much time it is taking for the economy to recover back to the original level. For instance, the recession that happened in US in 1973 to 75 was a U-shaped recovery. It took a significant amount of time for the economy to come back to its pre-recession level. Some economists also consider the recovery from the 2001 recession as a U-shaped recovery. While the GDP fall was mild and it also bounced back relatively quickly, however, the employment was at a very, very low level. Unemployment was very high, and that took as good as 7 years to come back to its original level. And hence, it was termed as a U shaped recovery by certain economists. The third shaped recovery is called as the W shaped recovery. Now, W shaped recovery is essentially two recessions or two V's coming into the picture. This means that once the economy starts recovering from a recession, the consumers are tricked into believing that it is a V shaped recovery. However, the economy goes into recession once again, and hence it is a double dip recession and it can shatter consumer confidence immensely. It is essentially two recessions in one, and this means that the economy can take a very large amount of time in order to come back to its pre recession level. Sometimes it could be the political events that are going on in the country, or it could be external factors, for example, a global crisis, or it could also be that the measures that are being taken by the government or by the central bank prove to be counterintuitive and the economy suddenly falls into recession again. So there could be a large number of reasons. There is no fixed reason as such. However, this recovery takes a lot of time and generally it is considered to be a scary situation in general. The fourth type of recovery is an L-shaped recovery. Now, L-shaped recovery is a very, very scary situation because it means that the GDP has fallen. However, it is taking not only months but years to come back to its pre-recession level. And sometimes it is also dubbed as depression because the economy is not able to bounce back to its original level. For example, the 2008 crisis is generally dubbed by the economists as an L-shaped recovery, while in terms of GDP, the GDP could recover in 2 to 3 years. However, other parameters such as employment, such as inflation, took a very, very long time to recover. And in fact, they could not reach the forecasted level of GDP growth. And hence, it was an L shaped recovery. And this proved to be a major, major setback to the US economy. Some of the reasons that were given by the former Federal Reserve Chairman Ben Bernanke were as follows: that the economy could not bounce back from the subprime mortgage crisis. Then the housing sector was still at a very, very low level. It could not boom after. The amount of credit that was available for the people of the US economy was not adequate and people were not spending enough. So, this was an L shaped recovery for the US economy. The fifth and the final shaped recovery that I'm going to talk about is the K shaped recovery, which was also in the news recently after Mr. Raghuram Rajan talked about this kind of recovery. As the name suggests, the K shaped recovery means that some sectors are actually coming back and booming back from the recession. However, some sectors are sinking further down below and are stagnating or just not recovering from the recession. This is a relatively new term which has come into being after this pandemic, and hence there is not a lot known about it. Now, the K-shaped recovery basically has two arms. The two arms could be divided in terms of the sectors which are recovering. For example, in the pandemic, the hospitality sector, the travel sector, the airline industry, they were the most affected, and hence they have still not bounced back and are in fact sinking down. However, other sectors such as the FMCG sector, such as the IT sector were booming and did not have to bear the brunt of the recession for a very long time, and hence the two arms again diverged. It could also be in terms of the section of the population affected. For example, the affluent class did not have to bear a lot of the brunt of the GDP recession. and hence they could actually bounce back from this recession very quickly. They actually started pouring in their money in the stock markets, and hence they could see the returns for their investments. However, the lower section of the population, the poor people, they lost their jobs, they lost their livelihood, and they faced the brunt of the recession and probably still are facing that brunt. And hence, they diverged in the lower segment of the K. And this is what Mr. Raghuram Rajan was talking about in terms of the K-shaped recovery of the Indian economy. We have to take into account that different sectors are actually coming back from the recession at different pace. Some are not seeing growth and some are seeing rapid growth, and this can lead to a greater inequality in the economy. It could also be in terms of the different classes of people. For example, different sections of the people have been affected differently because of this pandemic, and hence we need to ensure that the inequality is reduced and all the people are catered to. This is the goal of the government. Now, the important and the final part of this video is how do these shapes affect you? This is how it works. If the economy is seeing an L-shaped recovery, then it means that it's time to diversify your income sources. The unemployment might persist and the GDP might not come back to its pre-recession level for a very, very long time. This means that you must start thinking about earning from different sources, and hence you must start developing your income sources. It also means that you must shift from growth oriented instruments into income generating instruments. So, investments in stocks which give you dividends, investments in FDs may be a good idea. This is not a standard formula. You have to do your own research and you have to do your own homework in this. However, I'm just giving you an indication of what different recoveries could mean for different people. Similarly, if it is a V-shaped recovery, you might not want to pull out your investments. You might want to stay put and remain invested, because this means that the economy is going to reach back to its pre-recession level. Again, if it is a W-shaped recovery, you might want to save more, because that extra savings is going to come in handy when the economy sees a GDP downfall again. The bottom line is that you must diversify your investments. You must have multiple sources of income, because you never know when the economy might see a downfall and when the economy might recover from that downfall. However, I must give a fair disclaimer here that while we are in a recession, it is not easy to predict the shape of the recovery. We do not know how the economy is going to recover, what is the shape that the economy is going to take while it is recovering from that GDP downfall. It may be easy to see the shape only in retrospect. Hence, it is important to diversify your investments. It is important to develop multiple sources of income in order to not bear the negative consequences of an economy going into a recessionary phase. While we cannot predict recessions and how the economy is going to recover, it becomes important to understand how economic cycles work and how recovery takes place in order to be better prepared for our future. I hope you like this video. If you like the video, then do press the like button and do subscribe to the channel. I plan on posting more content around economics, finance, and public policy. If you have any suggestions for me, then do please drop them in the comment box down below, and I will definitely try to make videos on those topics as well. With that, see you on the next video. Stay safe, take care, bye.